Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Devastator, staring out at the endless darkness of space. The massive warship had been floating in the outer rim for 23 years, hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Most people had forgotten it even existed. Jake preferred it that way. The Devastator was not like other human ships. It was longer than 3 city blocks and packed with weapons that could crack planets in half. The ship's hull was black as night, covered in armor that could stop almost anything. Inside, the corridors were wide enough for tanks to drive through. Everything about the ship was built for one purpose. Total destruction. Jake had been the captain for 8 years now. He was 42 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had seen too much war in his life. The Devastator was supposed to be his quiet assignment, a place where nothing ever happened. He liked the peace. His crew was small for such a big ship. Only 300 people lived aboard the Devastator, compared to the thousands that worked on regular warships. Each person had been chosen carefully. They were the best of the best, but they were also people who could keep secrets. Lisa Grant walked onto the bridge. She was Jake's tactical officer, a smart woman in her 30s with short brown hair. She carried a tablet in her hands and looked worried. "Captain, we're getting a message from command," she said. "It's marked Priority 1. Jake turned to face her. Priority 1 messages were rare. They usually meant bad news. "Put it on the main screen." The large display at the front of the bridge lit up. Admiral Kyle Beck appeared on the screen. Beck was an old man with white hair and a face full of scars. He had been fighting wars since before Jake was born. "Captain Morrison," Beck said. His voice was serious. "I'm afraid I have terrible news. The Zephyrian Empire has attacked our colonies in the Kepler sector. 3 worlds are gone. New Boston, Crete Valley, and Sunset Ridge. Every human on those planets is dead." Jake felt his stomach drop. Those were peaceful farming worlds. Families lived there. Children played in fields of grain. Now they were all gone. "How many people?" Jake asked. 200,000, Beck replied. "The Zephyrians used orbital bombardment. They turned the planets into glass. We have video footage, but I wouldn't recommend watching it." Lisa cursed under her breath. Other crew members on the bridge stopped what they were doing to listen. "What do the Zephyrians want?" Jake asked. "They want us gone," Beck said. "They think humans are spreading too fast across the galaxy. They call us a pest species. Their leader sent a message to Earth yesterday. He said they would kill every human they could find until we went back to our home system." Jake clenched his fists. He had heard of the Zephyrians before. They were tall, thin aliens with gray skin and black eyes. They had conquered dozens of worlds over the past century. They believed only they had the right to explore space. "What are our orders, Admiral?" Beck was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke in a low voice. "Captain, I'm about to give you full authorization to use the Devastator as you see fit. No limits, no restrictions. You have complete freedom to deal with this threat." Jake understood what that meant. The Devastator carried weapons that were too dangerous for normal use. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets with a single shot. Weapons that broke the laws of physics. "Are you sure about this, Admiral?" 3 human worlds are dead, Captain. The Zephyrians are already moving toward their next target. We tried talking to them. They don't want to talk. They want to kill us all. Danny Cruz, the weapons officer, looked up from his station. He was a young man with dark hair and steady hands. "Captain, should I start charging the main systems?" Jake nodded. "Do it. Bring everything online." Danny's fingers moved over his controls. Deep inside the ship, machines that had been sleeping for decades began to wake up. The Devastator's most powerful weapons started to charge. The ship's lights dimmed as massive amounts of energy flowed through the hull. Amy Stone, the chief engineer, called from her station. "Captain, the Phoenix AI is requesting permission to activate." Phoenix was the ship's artificial intelligence. It was smarter than any human, but it was also completely loyal to the crew. Phoenix controlled the ship's most dangerous weapons. It had been turned off for years to save power. "Give Phoenix full access," Jake said. "We're going to need all the help we can get." The main computer screen flickered. Then a calm voice spoke through the ship's speakers. "Good morning, Captain. Morrison, this is Phoenix. I have been analyzing the situation while powering up. The Zephyrian Empire has made a serious mistake." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "They have attacked humanity while believing we are weak. They do not understand what the Devastator can do. They think they are hunting sheep, but they have awakened a sleeping dragon." Greg Phillips, the ship's second-in-command, walked onto the bridge. He was a tall man with gray hair and worried eyes. "Captain, are we really doing this?" "The weapons on this ship ... are not meant to be used." Jake looked at his old friend. Greg was right to be worried. The Devastator could destroy entire star systems if it wanted to. But the Zephyrians had made their choice when they killed innocent people. "Greg, 200,000 humans are dead. The Zephyrians think we're weak. They think they can kill us without consequences. It's time to show them what happens when you hurt humanity." The ship's engines started to hum. The Devastator began to move for the first time in years. It turned toward the Kepler sector, where the Zephyrians were still hunting for more human worlds to destroy. "Set course for the Kepler sector," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed." "Course laid in, Captain," Lisa said. "We'll reach the sector in 18 hours. Jake sat down in his captain's chair. The Devastator was fully awake now. Its weapons were charging. Its eye was thinking. The most dangerous ship in human history was going to war. The Zephyrians had no idea what was coming for them. They thought they were dealing with a weak species that couldn't fight back. Soon they would learn the truth. Humanity had built the Devastator for one reason: to make sure no one could ever destroy the human race. The sleeping giant was awake, and it was very, very angry. The Devastator dropped out of hyperspace near the ruins of New Boston. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, looking at what used to be a beautiful world. Now it was just a ball of melted rock and ash. "My God," Lisa Grant whispered. She was staring at the screen, her face pale. "There's nothing left." The planet below them glowed red with heat. The Zephyrians had used plasma weapons to burn everything. Cities, farms, forests, all gone. 2 million people had lived here just 3 days ago. Now there was only death. "Captain," Maria Santos called from her station. Maria was the ship's intelligence officer, a quiet woman who was very good at finding information. "I'm picking up Zephyrian ship signatures, heading toward the Harmony system." Jake's jaw tightened. Harmony was another human colony world. It was home to farm families and their children. The Zephyrians were going to kill them all. "How many ships?" Jake asked. 12 vessels. 3 heavy cruisers, 6 destroyers, and 3 support ships. They're moving fast. Can we catch them? Amy Stone looked up from her engineering station. "The engines are running at full power, Captain. We can intercept them in 4 hours." Jake nodded. "Do it." "Phoenix, are our weapons ready?" The AI's voice filled the bridge. "All systems are operational, Captain. The kinetic bombardment system is charged. The exotic matter cannons are online. The ship is ready for combat." Greg Phillips moved closer to Jake. "Captain, maybe we should try to talk to them first. Show them we're not weak, but avoid a fight if possible." Jake looked at his second-in-command. Greg was a good man who didn't like violence. But sometimes violence was the only language. That worked. Greg, they burned an entire world. They killed children. There's no talking to monsters like that. 4 hours later, the Devastator found the Zephyrian fleet approaching Harmony. The alien ships were sleek and silver, shaped like long knives. They moved in perfect formation, ready to destroy another human world. "Open a channel," Jake ordered. The main screen showed the bridge of the lead Zephyrian ship. The alien captain was tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes. He wore a uniform covered in sharp metal spikes. "I am Commander Zektar of the Zephyrin." "Empire," the alien said. His voice was cold and harsh. "You will surrender your ship immediately. Your species has no right to exist in our galaxy." Jake stood up slowly. "I'm Captain Morrison of the human warship Devastator. You just destroyed 3 of our worlds. That was a mistake." Zektar laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Mistake? We are cleansing the galaxy of your kind. Your people are weak and stupid. You cannot stop us." "We'll see about that," Jake said. "You have 10 seconds to turn around and leave this system." The alien commander's eyes grew wide. Then he laughed again. "1 human ship against 12 of ours? You are even more stupid than I thought. All ships, destroy the human vessel." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire. Plasma bolts and energy beams shot toward the Devastator. The weapons hit the human ship's shields, creating bright flashes of light. Shields holding at 98%. Amy reported, "Their weapons barely scratched us." Jake smiled grimly. "Annie, show them what real weapons look like. Fire the kinetic bombardment system." Danny Cruz's hands moved over his controls. "Kinetic system firing now, Captain." The Devastator's main weapon was simple but terrible. It fired metal rods ahead, near light speed. The rods were made of tungsten, one of the hardest metals in the universe. When they hit a target, they released more energy than nuclear bombs. 3 rods shot out from the human ship. They were invisible to the naked eye, moving too fast to see. Each rod was aimed at a different Zephyrian cruiser. The first rod hit the lead ship right in the middle. The cruiser simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. Not even debris remained. The second and third rods hit their targets a split second later. 2 more Zephyrian ships disappeared into clouds of superheated gas. 3 ships destroyed, Lisa reported. The remaining ships are trying to flee. Commander Zektar's image appeared on the screen again. His face was full of fear. "What kind of weapons are those?" "That's impossible." "That was just the beginning," Jake said. "Danny, charge the exotic matter cannons." "Exotic matter cannons charging, Captain," Danny replied. "They'll be ready in 30 seconds." The exotic matter cannons were the Devastator's most dangerous weapons. They fired small black holes that could tear through anything. The technology was so advanced that even human scientists didn't fully understand how it worked. "Wait," Zektar screamed. "We surrender. We'll leave this system." Jake's face was cold as stone. "You should have thought of that before you killed innocent people." "Exotic matter cannons ready," Danny announced. "Fire." The cannons shot 3 small black holes at the fleeing Zephyrian ships. The black holes were tiny, but they were incredibly powerful. They bent space and time around them, creating whirlpools in reality itself. The first black hole caught a Zephyrian destroyer. The ship was pulled apart, atom by atom, as it was sucked into the hole. The second hole consumed 2 ships at once. The third hole grew larger as it fed, eventually swallowing the remaining 3 vessels. In less than 7 minutes, the entire Zephyrian fleet was gone. 12 ships and thousands of alien soldiers had been wiped out by a single human vessel. "Any survivors?" Jake asked. "Negative, Captain," Maria reported. "Complete destruction." The bridge was quiet for a moment. Even the crew of the Devastator was shocked by what they had just done. They had destroyed an entire fleet without taking any damage. "Captain," Phoenix said, "I'm detecting a communication probe that was launched from the Zephyrian flagship before. It was destroyed. It's heading back to Zephyrian space." Jake nodded. "Good. Let them know what happened here. Let them know that humanity isn't as weak as they thought." Kelly Brooks, the communications officer, looked up from her station. "Captain, we're getting a message from Harmony. They want to thank us for saving them." "Tell them they're welcome," Jake said. "And tell them to be ready. This war is just beginning." Lisa walked over to Jake's chair. "Captain, what do you think the Zephyrians will do now?" Jake stared at the space where the alien fleet had been. "They'll send more ships. Bigger ships. They won't believe that one human vessel could destroy their entire fleet. They'll think it was a trick. And when they find out it wasn't a trick," Jake's eyes were hard, "then they'll learn what happens when you try to destroy humanity. We've been peaceful for a long time, but that doesn't mean we're weak. Sometimes the galaxy needs to remember why it should fear us." The Devastator turned away from Harmony and headed back into deep space. Behind them, the human colony was safe. But Jake knew this was just the first battle in a war that would shake the entire galaxy. The Zephyrians had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans were easy prey. Now they would learn the truth. When humanity was threatened, it didn't just fight back. It destroyed its enemies completely. The message was clear: leave humanity alone or face total annihilation. The news of the fleet's destruction reached Zentara Prime, the home world of the Zephyrian Empire. High Commander Vextar stood in the war room, staring at the reports with disbelief. His gray skin had turned almost white with rage. 12 ships, he said slowly. 12 of our best ships, destroyed by a single human vessel. How is this possible? General Colvin, his second in command, shifted nervously. The probe's data shows weapons we've never seen before. The humans fired metal rods that moved faster than light. They created black holes that ate our ships. Vextar slammed his fist on the table. Impossible. Humans are a primitive species. They barely left their home system 50 years ago. They cannot have weapons like this. The data doesn't lie, Commander, Colvin said quietly. Somehow, the humans have developed technology beyond our understanding. The High Commander paced back and forth. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for 300 years. They had conquered 47 worlds and destroyed 6 different species. No one had ever defeated them in battle. "Gather the great fleet," Vextar ordered. "Every ship we have, contact our allies. Tell them the human threat must be stopped before it spreads." "Sir, that's over 500 ships. Are you sure we need that many?" Vextar's black eyes burned with hatred. "I don't care if they have magic weapons. No single ship can stand against 500. We'll crush them with numbers." 3 days later, the largest fleet in Zephyrian history gathered at the edge of their territory. 300 Zephyrian warships floated in perfect formation. They were joined by ships from 12 other alien species that served the Empire. The fleet was massive, stretching across hundreds of miles of space. Meanwhile, the Devastator was heading toward the Centauri system. Jake Morrison sat in his captain's chair, reading intelligence reports. The news wasn't good. "Captain," Maria Santos called from her station, "long-range sensors are picking up a massive fleet moving toward human space. I count at least 500 ships." Jake's blood ran cold. 500 ships. Even the Devastator couldn't fight that many enemies at once. Where are they headed? The Centauri system. The colony ship New Earth is there with 2 million civilians. They're defenseless. Jake cursed under his breath. The New Earth was humanity's largest colony ship. It carried families looking for new homes, children who had never seen war. The Zephyrians were going to use them as bait. How long do we have? 6 hours, Captain. Maybe less. Jake stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. His crew was looking at him, waiting for orders. They all knew the situation was hopeless. 1 ship against 500 was suicide. Amy, what's the status of the stellar disruption array? Amy. Stone looked up from her engineering station. Her face was pale. It's never been tested, Captain. The theory says it should work, but we don't know for sure. The stellar disruption array was the Devastator's most terrible weapon. It could make a star explode, destroying everything in the system. It was a weapon of last resort, something that should never be used. Dr. Peter Walsh, the ship's doctor, spoke up from the back of the bridge. Captain, you can't be serious. If we use that weapon, we'll destroy the entire Centauri system. The colony ship will die too. Jake turned to face him. If we don't use it, the Zephyrians will torture and kill everyone on that ship. At least this way, their death will be quick. But sir, there has to be another way. We can't just murder 2 million people. They're dead either way, Doctor. The question is whether we let the Zephyrians win or not. Greg Phillips stepped forward. Captain, maybe we should try to negotiate. Offer to surrender in exchange for the civilians' lives. Jake shook his head. You saw what they did to New Boston. They don't take prisoners. They kill everyone. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew Jake was right. The Zephyrians had shown no mercy before. They wouldn't start now. Phoenix, Jake said, what are our chances of defeating the Zephyrian fleet in normal combat? The AI's voice filled the bridge. Based on current data, our chances are 0, Captain. Even with our advanced weapons, we cannot destroy 500 ships before they overwhelm us. And if we use the stellar disruption array, the weapon should destroy most of the fleet. However, it will also kill everyone in the system, including the human civilians. Jake closed his eyes. This was the hardest decision he had ever faced. Save humanity by destroying humans, or watch the entire species die slowly. How long to charge the array? 17 minutes, Captain, Amy replied. But Jake, are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. Jake looked at his crew. These people had followed him for years. They trusted him. Now he was asking them to become killers of innocent people. I'm not sure about anything, he said quietly. But I know the Zephyrians want to destroy our entire species. If we don't stop them here, they'll hunt down every human in the galaxy. The Devastator entered the Centauri system just as the Zephyrian fleet arrived. The alien ships surrounded the colony ship New Earth, their weapons pointed at the defenseless vessel. Incoming transmission, Kelly Brooks announced. The main screen showed High Commander Vexstar standing on the bridge of his flagship. Behind him, hundreds of alien officers watched with cold eyes. Human Captain, Vexstar said, you have caused great damage to our empire. But now you will pay. Surrender your ship, and we will kill the civilians quickly. Refuse, and we will make them suffer for days. Jake stood up slowly. I have a better idea. You have 60 seconds to leave this system. If you don't, I'll kill. You all? Vexstar laughed. You face 500 ships with one vessel. You are either very brave or very stupid. I'm neither, Jake replied. I'm just human, and humans don't surrender. The High Commander's smile faded. Very well. All ships, open fire. Destroy the human vessel. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and plasma bolts shot toward the Devastator. The human ship's shields flared bright as they absorbed the massive attack. Shields at 70%, Amy reported. We can't take much more of this. Danny, return fire. Use everything we have. The Devastator's weapons came to life. Kinetic. Bombardment rods shot out. destroying 12 alien ships in the first volley. Exotic matter cannons created black holes that swallowed entire squadrons, but there were too many enemies. For every ship the Devastator destroyed, 3 more took its place. The alien fleet was like a swarm of angry insects, attacking from all sides. "Shields at 40%, Amy called out. "Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. Jake gritted his teeth. "How long until the array is ready?" 12 more minutes, Captain." 12 minutes. They had to survive 12 more minutes against impossible odds. The Devastator shook as more weapons hit its hull. Smoke filled the bridge as control panels exploded. "Captain," Phoenix said, "I'm detecting massive energy buildup from the Zephyrian flagship. They're preparing to use their planet killer weapon." Jake's heart sank. The Zephyrians had weapons that could destroy entire worlds. If they used one on the Devastator, it would be over. Time to target? 3 minutes, Captain. Jake looked at the tactical display. The stellar disruption array needed 9 more minutes to charge. The Zephyrian planet killer would fire in 3 minutes. They weren't going to make it dot unless ... Amy, can you divert power from life support to the array? "That'll kill half the crew, Captain. The air will turn toxic." Jake nodded grimly. "Do it." "Phoenix, seal off all sections except the bridge. Emergency life support only." "Acknowledged." "Captain." The lights dimmed as power flowed to the array. Jake could hear the ship's life support systems shutting down. They had minutes before the air became too poisonous to breathe. "Array charging faster," Amy reported. 5 minutes to full power. The Devastator continued to fight, even as its crew began to suffocate. Danny Cruz fired weapon after weapon, destroying alien ships with each shot. But the Zephyrian fleet kept coming. "Planet killer weapon firing," Maria announced. A beam of pure energy shot from the Zephyrian flagship. It was bright enough to burn out the cameras, hot enough to melt metal. The beam struck the Devastator's hull and began to eat through the armor. "Hull breach on deck 1, Amy gasped. The air was getting thin. "We're losing atmosphere." Jake could barely breathe. Black spots danced in front of his eyes. But he stayed standing, watching the tactical display. "Array at full power," Amy whispered. Jake looked at the screen one last time. The colony ship New Earth floated nearby, full of innocent people. In a few moments, they would all be dead. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Then he gave the order that would change everything. "Fire the array." The stellar disruption array fired its beam at the Centauri star. The weapon was invisible to the naked eye, but its effects were immediate and terrible. Deep inside the star's core, the fusion process began to go wrong. The balance that had kept the star burning for billions of years was destroyed in seconds. Jake Morrison watched the tactical display as the star started to collapse. Warning lights flashed all over the bridge. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burning electronics. "Star core destabilizing," Phoenix announced. "Supernova in 8 minutes and 37 seconds. High Commander Vextar's face appeared on the screen. For the first time, the alien commander looked afraid. "What have you done, human?" "I've killed us all," Jake replied. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. "Including 2 million of my own people. But I've also killed your empire." Vextar's black eyes went wide. "You're insane. No one destroys a star in battle." "Humans do," Jake said. "When you threaten to destroy our entire species, we'll burn down the galaxy to stop you." The Zephyrian fleet was in chaos. Half the ships were trying to flee the system. The other half were still shooting at the Devastator, too shocked to understand what was happening. "All ships retreat." Vextar screamed over the radio. "Get out of the system now." But it was too late for many of them. The Devastator's weapons were still working. Danny Cruz barely conscious from lack of air, continued to fire at the alien ships. Each shot destroyed another enemy vessel. "Danny, stop firing," Jake ordered. "Save power for the escape jump." Danny's hands fell from his controls. He was too weak to argue. Around the bridge, the crew was barely alive. The air was poison now, full of toxic gases from the damaged systems. "Amy, can we make the jump?" Amy Stone looked up from her station. Blood was running from her nose, but she was still working. "Maybe, Captain. The hyperspace engines are damaged, but they might work." Once more, the star was getting brighter. Jake could see it through the main window, growing larger and more violent. Solar flares shot out millions of miles, reaching toward the fleet. 6 minutes to supernova, Phoenix announced. Most of the Zephyrian ships were trying to escape now. They flew away from the dying star as fast as they could. But many ships were too far away. They would never reach the edge of the system in time. "Captain," Maria Santos called weakly. "The colony ship New Earth is trying to escape too. They're not going to make it." Jake closed his eyes. 2 million innocent people were about to die because of his decision. Men, women, children who had never hurt anyone. He had killed them to save humanity. "Are there any other human ships in the system?" "Negative, Captain. Just the New Earth." Jake opened his eyes and looked at the tactical display. The colony ship was moving as fast as it could, but it was too big and too slow. The supernova would catch it long before it reached safety. "Phoenix, can we help them?" "The colony ship's engines are not fast enough, Captain. However, if we use our tractor beam to pull them, we might be able to get them to the edge of the system." Jake's heart jumped. "Do it. Lock onto the New Earth." "Captain," Greg Phillips said, "if we use the tractor beam, we won't have enough power for our own escape." Jake looked at his old friend. Greg's face was pale and covered in sweat. He was dying slowly, just like everyone else on the bridge. "Greg, those are our people on that ship. We can't just let them die." "But, sir, if we don't escape, the Zephyrians will win." "They'll destroy every human world." Jake shook his head. "No, they won't. Look at them, Greg. Half their fleet is destroyed. The other half is running away in terror. They'll never attack humans again." The Devastator's tractor beam reached out and grabbed the colony ship. The massive vessel started to move faster, pulled by the warship's powerful engines. 4 minutes to supernova, Phoenix announced. The star was huge now, filling half the sky. Solar flares reached out like fingers, trying to grab the fleeing ships. Several Zephyrian vessels were caught in the star's gravity and pulled back toward the surface. "Tractor beam is working," Amy reported. "The colony ship is accelerating." Jake watched the display. The New Earth was moving faster, but was it fast enough? The math was close, very close. "Can we make it?" "Unknown, Captain. It depends on how fast the shockwave travels." On the Zephyrian flagship, High Commander Vextar was screaming at his crew. "Faster, we need more speed." His ship was one of the lucky ones. It had been near the edge of the system when the star began to collapse. But even so, it was going to be close. "Sir," his tactical officer said, "the human warship is using its tractor beam to pull the colony ship. They're sacrificing themselves to save civilians." Vextar stared at the screen in disbelief. "They're giving up their own lives? For people they don't even know?" "It appears so, sir." The High Commander was quiet for a moment. In 300 years of warfare, he had never seen anything like this. The Zephyrians fought for territory and resources. They never sacrificed themselves for others. 2 minutes to supernova, Phoenix announced. The Devastator was shaking apart. The tractor beam was using all the ship's remaining power. Life support was completely gone. The crew was breathing emergency air from bottles. "Colony ship is almost at the edge," Amy said. Her voice was barely a whisper. 30 more seconds. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was dying, but they were still working. Still fighting to save innocent lives. He was proud of them. Phoenix. As soon as the colony ship is safe, release the tractor beam and make the jump. Understood, Captain. The star was about to explode. Jake could feel the heat through the ship's hull. The Devastator's armor was starting to melt. Colony ship is clear, Amy announced. Releasing tractor beam. The new Earth shot forward, finally. Free to escape at full speed. Behind it, the Devastator tried to follow, but the ship was too damaged. The hyperspace engines sparked and died. Engines are dead, Amy said. We're not going anywhere. Jake nodded. He had expected this. The Devastator had given everything to save the colony ship. Now it was time to pay the price. Phoenix, send a message to the new Earth. Tell them to get as far away as possible, and tell them we're proud to have served humanity. Message sent, Captain. The bridge fell silent. Outside, the star was about to explode. The Devastator floated in space, powerless and alone. The crew waited for the end. 30 seconds, Phoenix announced. Jake looked at his crew one last time. Lisa Grant was unconscious at her station. Danny Cruz was barely breathing. Amy Stone was trying to fix the engines, even though it was hopeless. It's been an honor serving with you all, Jake said. 10 seconds, Phoenix announced. Jake closed his eyes and thought about home. About Earth, where he had been born. About the children playing in fields of grain on the colony worlds. About the future of humanity. The star exploded. The supernova was brighter than a billion suns. It lit up the entire system, turning night into day on planets dozens of light years away. The shockwave moved outward at incredible speed, carrying death and destruction. But something impossible happened. Just as the wave was about to hit the Devastator, the ship's hyperspace engines suddenly came back online. Phoenix had found a way to restart them using the star's own energy. Emergency jump successful, Phoenix announced. We are now in hyperspace. Jake opened his eyes. He was still alive. His crew was still alive. Somehow they had escaped the supernova. How? He asked. The star's explosion provided enough energy to restart the engines for exactly 1.2 seconds. Phoenix explained. I calculated the exact moment to engage the hyperspace drive. Jake laughed. He couldn't help it. They had faced certain death and survived. The Devastator was battered and broken, but it was still flying. What about the Zephyrian fleet? Scanning. Now, Phoenix said. 237 ships destroyed. 143 escaped the system. The colony ship New Earth is safe. Jake sat back in his chair. More than half the Zephyrian fleet was gone. The colony ship was safe, but the cost had been terrible. The Centauri system was destroyed. The star was gone. Several Zephyrian colony worlds near the system would be hit by the shockwave. Captain, Kelly Brooks said weakly, we're getting a transmission from the Zephyrian flagship. Jake was surprised. Put it through. High Commander Vextar appeared on the screen. His ship had barely escaped the supernova. His gray skin was burned, and his uniform was torn. He looked like a broken man. Human Captain, Vextar said slowly. You destroyed a star. You killed your own people to stop us. I did what I had to do, Jake replied. You wanted to destroy humanity. I showed you what happens when you threaten us. Vextar was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke again. We surrender. The Zephyrian Empire will not attack human worlds again. We did not know you were capable of such destruction. Jake stared at the alien commander. After all the death and violence, the Zephyrians were finally giving up. You will leave human space immediately, Jake said. If any Zephyrian ship is found near our colonies, We will destroy your home world. Understood, Vextar replied. We will withdraw all our forces. The war is over. The transmission ended. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was badly hurt, but they were alive. The Devastator was damaged, but it could be repaired. Phoenix, set course for human space. We're going home. Course laid in, Captain. Estimated arrival time, 14 hours. As the Devastator limped through hyperspace, Jake thought. 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Earth Station 1, looking out at the blue planet below. His hair was whiter now, and his eyes looked older. The Battle of Centauri had changed him in ways he was still trying to understand. The Devastator was in the shipyard nearby, getting repaired. The massive warship had taken months to fix. New armor covered the hull where the star's heat had melted the old plates. The weapons systems had been rebuilt from scratch. Captain Morrison? Jake turned to see Admiral Kyle Beck walking toward him. The old admiral looked tired. The war with the Zephyrians had aged everyone in the human fleet. Admiral, Jake said, how are the peace talks going? Beck sat down in a chair next to Jake. Better than expected. The Zephyrians are keeping their word. They've pulled back all their ships from human space. They've even agreed to pay compensation for the colonies they destroyed. Jake nodded. What about the other alien governments? That's the interesting part, Beck said. Every major power in the galaxy has sent diplomats to Earth. They all want to sign peace treaties with us. They're terrified. Jake wasn't surprised. Word of the Centauri battle had spread across the galaxy. The story grew with each telling. Some aliens believed humans could destroy entire solar systems with a single shot. Others thought humanity had tamed black holes as weapons. They should be scared, Jake said quietly. We proved that we'll do anything to survive. Beck was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke carefully. Jake, I need to ask you something. Do you regret what you did? Destroying the star? Jake thought about the question. He had asked himself the same thing every day for 6 months. 2 million. Humans had died in the supernova. 3 Zephyrian worlds had been destroyed when the shockwave hit them. Billions of aliens were dead because of his decision. I regret that it was necessary, Jake said finally. But I don't regret doing it. If I hadn't destroyed that star, the Zephyrians would have killed every human in the galaxy. Beck nodded. The Senate agrees with you. They're promoting you to Fleet Admiral. They want you to command the new Deterrence Division. Jake frowned. What's the Deterrence Division? A fleet of ships like the Devastator. Vessels equipped with reality-breaking weapons. Your job will be to make sure no one ever threatens humanity again. Jake looked out at space. In the distance, he could see construction ships building new vessels. These ships would carry weapons that could crack planets or stop time itself. Humanity was building an arsenal that would make them the most feared species in the galaxy. How many ships? 50 to start, maybe more later. Each one will be commanded by a captain who understands what it means to protect humanity at any cost. Jake thought about his crew. Lisa Grant was still recovering from her injuries, but she had volunteered to stay with the Devastator. Danny Cruz had nightmares about the weapons he had fired, but he refused to transfer to another ship. Amy Stone was working on new engine, designs that would make human ships even faster. They were all changed by what they had done, but they were still together. What about the crew of the Devastator? They'll stay with you if they want to. They've all been promoted and given medals. The government considers them heroes. Jake wasn't sure about that. Heroes saved people. The crew of the Devastator had killed billions of aliens to save humanity. It wasn't heroism. It was necessary survival. There's something else, Beck said. The other alien governments want to meet with you personally. They want to hear from the man who destroyed a star. Jake shook his head. I don't want to be famous. Admiral, I just want to make sure this never happens again. That's exactly why they want to meet you. They need to see that humans aren't monsters, that we'll only use these weapons if we're threatened. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Below him, Earth turned slowly in space. Green continents and blue oceans sparkled in the sunlight. It looked so peaceful from up here, but Jake knew the truth. Humanity had become the galaxy's apex predator. Every alien species was afraid of them now. The balance of power had shifted completely. Admiral, what happens when other species develop weapons like ours? Beck was quiet for a long moment. Then we'll have to be ready for them. The age of peace is over, Jake. Humanity has shown the galaxy what we're capable of. Now we have to live with the consequences. 3 days later, Jake was back on the bridge of the Devastator. The ship looked the same as before, but it felt different. The crew moved more quietly. They spoke in whispers. Everyone remembered what they had done. In the Centauri system, Captain, Kelly Brooks announced, we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian home world. Jake was surprised. The Zephyrians had been silent since the peace treaty was signed. Put it through. The screen showed a young Zephyrian female. She was smaller than the males Jake had seen before, with softer features. She wore simple clothes, instead of a military uniform. Captain Morrison, she said, my name is Velara. I am a teacher on Zentara Prime. I wanted to thank you. Jake frowned. Thank me? I destroyed 3 of your worlds. Yes, Velara said sadly. But you also stopped a war that would have killed billions more. My people were wrong to attack yours. The High Command thought humans were weak. They learned too late that we were the weak ones. Jake didn't know what to say. He had expected anger from the Zephyrians, not gratitude. Captain, Velara continued, I teach young Zephyrians about the galaxy. Before the war, I told them that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak. But you showed us something different. What do you mean? You sacrificed your own people to save them from torture. You risked everything to protect civilians. On the colony ship, you could have fled and saved yourself, but you stayed to fight. That is not the action of a weak species. Jake was quiet. He had never thought of it that way. My students ask me about humans now, Velara said. They want to know how a species can be so peaceful and so dangerous at the same time. I tell them that humans fight not because they love war, but because they love peace. The transmission ended. Jake stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Captain, Phoenix said, we're receiving similar messages from across the galaxy. Many aliens are expressing gratitude for ending the Zephyrian threat. Jake sat down in his captain's chair. Around him, his crew was working quietly. They were preparing for their next mission, a patrol of the Outer Rim to show the flag, to remind everyone that humanity was watching. Phoenix, what do you think about all this? About what we've become? The AI was quiet for several seconds. Then, it spoke. Captain, I have analyzed the data from across the galaxy. Since the Battle of Centauri, there have been 73% fewer wars between alien species. Piracy has dropped by 60%. Trade has increased by 40%. So, fear of humanity has brought peace to the galaxy, Captain. Species that have fought for centuries are now working together, united by their fear of what humans might do if they start another war. Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien governments were building new ships and developing new weapons. But they were also talking to each other instead of fighting. They were working together instead of trying to conquer their neighbors. We've become the galaxy's police force, Jake said quietly. More than that, Phoenix replied. We've become the thing that other species fear more than each other. And sometimes, fear is the only thing that can bring peace. The Devastator turned toward the Outer Rim, its engines humming with power. Behind it, Earth grew smaller until it was just another star in the darkness. Ahead lay the unknown, full of potential threats and new challenges. But Jake wasn't worried. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was peaceful, but it was not weak. And anyone who forgot that lesson would face the same fate as the Zephyrians. Message was clear, written in the ashes of dead worlds. Leave humanity alone, or face total annihilation. In the end, that message had brought more peace than 1,000 diplomatic treaties. Sometimes the galaxy needed to be reminded that some species should never be threatened. Humanity was one of those species. And the Devastator was there to make sure everyone remembered.